performs miracles, prophecy fulfilled. What if someone could make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk? Over 700 years before Jesus' time, the prophet Isaiah foretold a day when miracles would be the hallmark of the Messiah's mission. In Isaiah 35:5-6, these miracles were vividly described. But how do they connect to Jesus and his ministry, as recorded in Matthew 11:4-5? Let's uncover this remarkable story that challenges skeptics and deepens our faith. The story begins with Isaiah, painting a vision of a future filled with hope and restoration. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For waters shall burst forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. Isaiah 35:5-6. This prophecy was more than poetic imagery. It was a promise that the Messiah would bring not only spiritual salvation, but also physical healing, transforming lives in extraordinary ways. For centuries, God's people clung to this promise, longing for the day when the prophecy would be fulfilled. Centuries later, in the time of Jesus, the fulfillment began to unfold. Jesus traveled through towns and villages, teaching, preaching, and healing. His miracles weren't random acts of kindness, they were signs pointing to his divine identity and the arrival of God's kingdom. One powerful moment of fulfillment is recorded in Matthew 11. John the Baptist, imprisoned and awaiting his fate, sent his disciples to Jesus with a pressing question: "Are you the coming one, or do we look for another?" Matthew 11:3. Rather than giving a simple yes or no, Jesus pointed to his works as evidence. "Go and tell John the things which you hear and see. The blind see and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up and the poor have the gospel preached to them." Matthew 11:4-5. With these words, Jesus directly connected his ministry to Isaiah's prophecy. The miracles were not just displays of power, they were the fulfillment of God's promise, validating his claim as the Messiah. Consider the scope of Jesus' miracles. The blind saw. He restored sight to those who lived in darkness, physically and spiritually. The lame walked. Those confined to their mats leapt with joy, experiencing both physical healing and newfound hope. The deaf heard. Jesus opened ears, allowing people to hear not just sounds, but the truth of God's love. The mute spoke. Tongues once silenced by infirmity sang praises to God. The dead were raised. He demonstrated power over death itself, pointing to his ultimate victory over sin and death. Each miracle was a glimpse of the kingdom of God breaking into the world. These acts not only transformed individual lives, but also confirmed Jesus' divine authority, leaving no doubt that he was the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy. Skeptics may argue that these accounts are exaggerated or fabricated. But how do they explain the numerous eyewitness testimonies and the lasting impact of Jesus' miracles? The Gospels were written by those who saw his works firsthand or gathered accounts from those who did. The transformative power of these miracles continues to resonate, changing lives to this day. Isaiah 35:5-6 promised a Messiah who would perform miracles, and Jesus fulfilled this prophecy in every way. His acts of healing were not just signs of compassion, but also evidence of his divine mission. They challenge us to see Jesus not just as a historical figure, but as the living Messiah whose power and love extend to all who believe. This story leaves us with a question. Do you believe in the one who opened blind eyes, made the lame walk, and raised the dead? His miracles testify to his identity and invite us to experience his transforming power in our own lives.